Welcome to Constructive Conversations, Building Canada's Stories. I'm your host, George Affleck. Join me as we dig into the foundations of Canada's construction industry, learning from leaders and pioneers in this business from the ground up. Today, I'm joined by Chris Gardner, the president of the Independent Contractors and Businesses Association, based in Burnaby, British Columbia. As the leader of the organization, Chris is extremely skilled and passionate about the construction industry and its workers. Let's start the conversation now. Hi, Chris. How's it going?
It's great. Great to be here, George. Thanks very much for taking time to do the interview today.
Yeah, thanks for joining me. You know, this podcast series, we've been working with you guys at the ICBA, so we're really pleased to have you here to introduce, Constructive Conversations. We want to continue this dialogue for your members and beyond, and I know you want to, but can you maybe talk about, the impetus, the whole point of this, Constructive Conversations and what you want to achieve with our conversations that we're having across this country?
Well, construction is what we say here at ICBA, one of the unsung heroes of our economy and our economic growth. And in British Columbia, approximately 250,000 men and women work in construction, contributing about 10% of the province's GDP. But you don't often hear much about construction compared to other sectors of our economy, like high tech, the clean energy sector. Those get a lot more attention than construction. And the reality is construction happens in every single community across this province, across this country. It presents tremendous opportunities for young people pursuing a career in the trades, making career choices. The opportunities in construction are significant. And one of the interesting things as we come out of the COVID-19 global pandemic is that construction proved to be a very resilient career choice. It was deemed an essential service. So while other parts of our economy were tragically impacted in such a significant way, the men and women working in construction kept working. They were able to support themselves, their families, and their communities because of the essential service designation. So not only challenging work, a resilient opportunity, great compensation, but there's so much in construction that's exciting that doesn't get the attention that I think the sector and the men and women who work in it every day deserve.
The ICBA itself, as an organization, it's quite diverse in its membership too. And I'm wondering if you could tell us, for those maybe who are new to the ICBA or haven't heard of the ICBA, maybe you could tell us a bit about the organization, and who you represent and why.
Yeah, ICBA, what we say is ICBA is like a stool that has three legs, and they're all very, very important. The first one is we have over 3,000 members and clients that basically we provide services in three different areas for. The first is public policy advocacy. Everything related to ensuring that the construction part of our economy is dynamic, thriving, and growing, we advocate for, because a strong construction sector means a healthy and strong growing economy. Second, group health and retirement benefits. There's nothing more important for anyone in any job than to ensure that they've got the benefits that are there when they and their family members need them. And so we've got nearly 100,000 people on one of our benefit plans. It's big and it's growing. It has a very strong footprint in British Columbia, but also in provinces outside of British Columbia throughout Canada. That's a very exciting part of our business. And then the workforce development training side of our business, that third element that's vitally important. ICBA itself trains nearly 5,000 construction professionals a year. We are the largest sponsor of trades apprentices in British Columbia. And, there's nothing more important right now across every sector of our economy than finding workers. The shortage of skilled workers in every part of our economy is acute. And that's because we have an aging workforce and we don't have enough new younger workers going into in this case, into construction. And so that's creating some pressures on the sector. So being able to train those individuals and provide opportunities for them to learn skills and advance their career is vitally important for every single construction contractor in British Columbia.
I'm definitely, in my conversations with companies and organizations across the country as part of this series, I'm definitely hearing that staffing and finding their team players, no matter where they are, any corner of this country. They're having the same challenges. And a lot of these companies are, family owned. They've been around, some of them for 10 years, some of them for 50, 60 years. And it's interesting. A lot of them have the same commitment to their operations, in that the staff are the highest, it gives the highest priority, to retaining staff, to respecting staff, to giving them all the things like training and benefits, and just being really part of hearing a lot about connecting with the communities across this country, and how they really do get involved. And I think a lot of it has to do with just keeping their staff and keeping the great ones, no matter what's happening with the economy, even the ups and downs. I'm hearing a lot of commitment to their staff. And is that something that those benefits that you talk about, those things those planks, those stool legs that you talk about, are key to assisting them in prioritizing that at this, their staff as a thing?
Definitely. Listen, in this right now, as we come out of the COVID-19 pandemic, and the economy starts to advance and to grow again, construction, as I said earlier, was deemed an essential service. So construction workers, for the most part, kept working during the COVID-19 pandemic. But construction wasn't immune from the impacts of COVID-19. We estimate that in British Columbia in 2020, about 15% of the construction activity was taken out of the market because of the pandemic. And we expect, that recovery to be a little uneven. Different parts of the province this year will do better than others. And then in 2022, we expect to be back into a situation where the construction sector is going to be growing again in a fairly significant way. So through all of this, the biggest challenge is recruiting workers and retaining workers. And if you're going to retain and attract and retain workers, you're going to need to ensure that they have, obviously, opportunities for challenging work, opportunities for career advancement, a strong and healthy benefit plan for both themselves and the members of their family. Because if you look at Canada, the demographic profile of Canada, if you took out immigration, Canada's population would be flat or declining. And so as we have an aging workforce, and there's really only two ways to address that, not only in construction, but in all parts of our economy, and that's to become more productive or through immigration. And it's those two levers that are vitally important to ensure that Canada's economy continues to grow, to prosper, to provide opportunities and jobs for Canadians across the country. And so for the construction sector, facing and certainly in British Columbia, a very strong construction market. It's been very strong for a number of years. If you're going to recruit and retain a skilled workforce, you've got to pay attention to all of those elements that make a healthy and dynamic workplace. And that's training, opportunities for advancement, and benefits, and then opportunities to work on exciting projects. And there's a lot of them going on in British Columbia.
That, the training, well, certainly the benefits, and I think a lot of people might be surprised at all the things that a lot of private companies across the country who are providing many positive benefits, like benefits themselves as far as insurance and the training as well, and a lot of that also protects the workers from injuries. And are you seeing that as a real positive and a real impact on with the proper training, that injuries cases do go down?
Yeah, there's no question about that. And there's what's interesting about construction is that it is a high risk occupation. Lots of opportunities when you're working on a construction site for injuries to occur. So safety is hardwired into the DNA of construction contractors and of every man and woman who works in construction. They wake up, they start off their day with a toolbox talk at the beginning of every shift. And in toolbox talk, you are basically saying, okay, here's what's going to happen on the site today. Be aware of this, be aware of that. We're going to be craning over here. We're going to be moving equipment in this part of the site. So everyone is aware of what's going on the site. And then there's a part of the toolbox talk that addresses something that's topical. So, for example, ensuring that you're using fall protection if you're working at heights, or you're using all the safe work procedures for everything you're going to be doing that day. All of that is critically important, and underpinning that is that commitment to safety, that culture of safety, is a robust and healthy group health plan, so that not only if something happens, obviously on the work site, but just your regular day-to-day, month to month, year to year, annual checkups, going to the dentist, all of those things that are important to maintain your health, a healthy lifestyle for both you and your members of your family.
And when you talk about growth and the fact that we see Canada is growing because of the immigration policies that we have, but also you look at especially in British Columbia, where we're seeing, well, for as long as I can remember, we've had the same percentage of growth per year, roughly the same per every year, same number of people moving to the province. And, that you have to plan for the future and have the ability to have the people that can do the work that needs to get done to build a growing economy and growing market. So that's important that people are safe and healthy and protected.
Yeah, and another aspect of health is wellness, and wellness, mental wellness, and that's something that was emerging as a really important issue in all parts of our society before the COVID-19 pandemic, and coming through the pandemic, isolation, all of the safety protocols that were put in place to prevent the spread of the virus exacerbated the incidence of challenges with mental health. And so one of the things we're launching at ICBA over the coming weeks is a very innovative workplace wellness program that's going to provide supports and an opportunity to talk about the challenges that all of us face in our daily lives, to ensure that there's opportunities for workers to say, yeah, I do kind of get down every now and then, or experiencing these kinds of challenges. Not is there someone I can talk to? And we want to provide that opportunity for those very, very important discussions, because it's an area that has for far too long been lurking under the surface. It runs silent and it runs deep, but the impact of it on individuals and families can be very, very damaging. And so we've got to shine a light on it and do it in a way that's positive, that people feel supported and encouraged, and have the and aren't afraid to come forward and say, hey, I need some help.
To pivot a little bit, some of the work you've done with the industry right from the start, in fact, has been because of the politics of construction. Can you explain a bit more about that and how, who's in charge and can have an impact of the work that's available?
Yeah, one of the things that there are some challenges. We've talked about the opportunities in construction. There's some challenges that the sector is facing, and it operates on a number of different levels. And if you think of, we talked earlier about productivity and being more productive as a country and being more competitive. And every year the World Bank puts out a study called Doing Business, and it ranks countries on a number of different metrics. And one of those metrics is the length of time it takes to get a construction permit issued on a project. And on that scale, Canada ranks number 64. We're a G7 economy, but in the time it takes to have a construction permit issued, we rank number 64. And it is it's an embarrassing statistic for Canada, and it goes to a lot of the red tape and regulations that prevent us from bringing projects online faster, and faster, but not in a way no one's talking about faster meaning that we compromise issues related to safety or the environment. Faster means we've got to be more effective at identifying opportunities where investors are looking for places to and economies to invest in, and they know that there's a certainty of process, and that timeline isn't going to be onerous. The requirements aren't going to be onerous. They can be thorough and robust, But when we rank number 64 in the world in terms of the time it takes to issue a construction permit, and then you think about the affordability crisis we have in housing in many major centers in British Columbia, and the fact, and you know this well, George, given your time as a councillor in the city of Vancouver, it now takes as long or longer to get a project approved as it does to build it. And so when you combine the difficulty in bringing projects online with the fees and taxes that are layered onto projects, it does impact affordability. And so, affordability for the first-time home buyer and affordability meet at City Hall, and it doesn't end very well for first-time home buyers because of the length of time it takes to get supply onto the market and the taxes and the fees that flow right through to the families that are purchasing those homes. So that's one element of the challenge that we face in British Columbia and in Canada. And another element, and it's the common theme in all of this, is that government policies that may be well-intentioned, but they end up distorting the market and increasing costs and or preventing opportunities. So a great example of that in British Columbia is community benefit agreements. And the purpose of community benefit agreements, which everyone supports, is the thrust to hire more women, more young people, more people from Indigenous communities, to ensure that there are opportunities in construction that are given to groups that traditionally haven't had those opportunities in construction and may not have been aware of them, and or considered them as an opportunity for a career choice. So that those nobody would object to that. The challenge with the community benefit agreements as they're being rolled out in British Columbia is that what the government is effectively saying is if you're going to work on projects designated under a community benefit agreement in British Columbia, you have to be a member of a building trades union. And the challenge with that in British Columbia, only 12% of the 250,000 men and women who work in construction in this province are members of a building trade union. So when the government says you have to be a member of a building trades union to work on a project, they're basically saying only 12% of the workforce is able to work on that project. So that's unfair. It's discriminatory. And so our position would be, listen, every construction contractor in this province should have a fair shot at the work. There should be no special deals, no special favors. Come one, come all, and the best bid, the best proposal should be selected. And that will ensure that the process is fair and that taxpayers are getting full value for their money. And so it is... And to enact CBAs, the government's created a new Crown Corporation. And so they spent a lot of money setting up, a bureaucracy to manage and report out on the progress of CBAs. And so what have we seen? The cost of projects that are built under CBAs versus those that aren't have increased by 25, 30, 35, up to 40%. And so everybody loses. Fewer opportunities for workers, and taxpayers are paying more, they're getting less. So it doesn't make sense. And so one of the things that we talk about a lot in our society is smart government, we talk about smartphones, smart homes, smart everything. We're not talking about smart government. And so if we're going to be more competitive, we're going to build an economy that's cleaner and greener, and that's going to provide long-term prosperity, we need smart government policies. We need to take the politics and the ideology out of so many of these decisions, which are layering on costs, making our economy less competitive, preventing opportunities for people to fully participate in the economy, and driving taxes up for taxpayers.
There's an irony that the goals of the government, whether it be provincial, federal, local, is to achieve these goals. Is housing, and yet they're creating these bottlenecks themselves by reducing the people who can apply to do the work. And so you create this bottleneck in sectors, and you look at certain communities where where councillors are very political, and they're putting in motions that are layering on policy on top of policy on top of policy, which of course staff get confused by, developers and builders, and even persons who want to renovate their bathroom are so lost and mired in the complexities of approval that everything just gets pushed and bound. It's very frustrating. So, and for you as an organization to navigate that's so complex, how do you actually navigate three layers of government and multiple, especially when you think about municipal governments, when there are so many of them, each of them with their own strategy and policies. And I mean, how do you as an organization really find a way to get through all that?
Well, the local level is the most difficult because there's so many different municipalities, cities, towns in the province, and so Vancouver's the largest city. It's in the biggest media market. It gets the most attention, but it is very difficult and challenging for organizations like ours to lobby hundreds of different local governments. Easier when you're talking to Victoria in the sense that it's one city, you have the premier and the cabinet, and it's an easier level of government to lobby for change for government policy, and then federally is the same. The challenge with our the lobbying federally in Canada is that the further you are away from the center of Canada, the more challenging it becomes to get on the radar screen of government officials when so much of what happens in the country really revolves around Ontario and Quebec. So Victoria is where we spend a fair bit of our time. In terms of making submissions to provincial ministers, looking at opportunities to improve government policies as it relates to everything from taxation, regulation, WorkSafe BC, labor code issues, project approvals on infrastructure projects, the spending that comes out of, for example, the Ministry of Transportation, which has a big budget that funds a lot of local and regional and provincial projects. So there's a lot of attention we spend there. But when it comes to issues like housing, permit approvals, the inspection process that happens locally when a project is being built, it is challenging we tend to be a little bit more reactive than proactive because there's just so many municipalities in the province.
Sorry, just fire engine going by there. The industry, you touched on this related to the pandemic that we've been all living through. How do you see the recovery then over the next few months and years for while the industry was not as hard hit perhaps as some other industries, everything kind of connects together. And how do you see the next months and years ahead for the sector, specifically for the ICBA?
Yeah, one of the interesting things about the pandemic in terms of the construction sector is that one of the things that is hardwired into the DNA of construction workers, as I said earlier, is safety. And construction projects are linear. You start there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. And so one of the things that construction contractors are very good at are mobilizing people and equipment and maintaining a schedule to get a project to completion. And so when the new safety protocols were rolled out for how to operate safely in a COVID-19 pandemic, construction responded quickly and adopted those protocols. And up until the end of last year, there was only one case of COVID-19 being transmitted on a construction site that was recognized by WorkSafe BC. So it was an outstanding record of safety and a commitment to working safely by construction contractors and their employees. So as we go forward, as we come out of the pandemic, construction fared better than most. It was deemed an essential service. And for the most part, construction workers kept working. There weren't a lot of projects that were outright canceled. There were some delays in RFPs coming out. Definitely timelines on existing projects were impacted because of the new safety protocols. So we estimate that in 2020, activity declined by 15%. We think this year is going to be flat in terms of, so similar in terms of activity to last year. But we are noticing now that as people look forward and the prospect of widespread adoption of vaccinations is on the horizon, as you look at Q3, Q4 of this year, maybe a return to more normal, certainly normal activity in Q4. In some sectors of the construction market, high-rise residential for one, it could snap back faster than we might anticipate. And large parts of our economy, the travel sector, hotels, tourism, could also experience that very rapid recovery at the end of this year. So going into 2022, we think we'll be returning to a fairly strong growth scenario for the construction sector in this province.
My son, one of my kids, he's 19. I have two sons and a daughter, and when he's 19, he's got a band, and so that's great, and he's very talented. But he's also, what's interesting, he's considering his backup plan. It's not university. When I graduated from high school, all parents were getting us go to university. He and most of his friends, and they all graduated. They all have smart kids. They're all really, it seems to be interested in the trades as an opportunity. And I'm wondering for you, saying to younger people considering a career in construction, or to those actually, because what he's interested in is a sort of an entrepreneurial side of it as well. This opportunity the industry is quite entrepreneurial, and so not only is there the opportunity just for the work once you're trained, but there's the opportunity to move into as an entrepreneur and grow your own small business, or even grow it into a bigger business. A lot of the companies I'm talking to started small, and they've expanded into these massive organizations. I mean, so what would you say to younger people right now considering those things?
Well, this is really one of the untold stories of construction, is the entrepreneurial opportunities from learning a skill, learning a trade, getting some experience, and then starting your own business. And that is the story of every construction company in this province. They all started with an idea, with someone who said, hey, I'm going to start my own company, whether that's a mechanical contractor, a plumbing contractor, someone who does drywall, someone who does metal fabrication. These are all entrepreneurs at heart. And we don't tell that story enough in high school when kids are starting to make decisions about the career choices that they're going to make. I remember when I was in high school, to the point that you just made, it was, go to university, arts and sciences, you're in this stream. And if you're not smart enough, quote unquote, for that stream, well, just go down the hallway, turn left, and that's where the shops are. And you can go there and work there and figure something out. You're sort of left to your own devices. The reality is learning a trade and a career in the trades and starting your own business is very exciting, tremendous opportunities. Because there is a shortage of construction workers, compensation is excellent in the compensation packages and the benefits offered to construction workers. The exciting projects you get to work on. You drive around the Lower Mainland, other parts of British Columbia, and you see exciting high-rise complexes that are going up, new convention centers, community centers, bridges, roads. People build those, and they're exciting to see how it starts from effectively nothing to the finished product. A lot to be proud of for the men and women who have those skills to be able to turn those projects from, drawings on a piece of paper to physical structures that change people's lives, improve their lives, make them easier, and create monuments that are in many cases stunning. So a career in the trades is a tremendous opportunity. And once you have those skills, you can work in any province in this country. You can work in any country you want if you decide to take those skills to a different jurisdiction. And start. What can be more exciting about starting your own business and hiring people and providing opportunities for them to realize their dreams? So I don't think there's a career that's more exciting than construction.
And on that note, Chris, I'm going to say thanks very much for taking time today to chat with me. And I look forward to further conversations in the industry in the future. Thanks very much.
Great. Thank you. It was great to be here.
I'm George Affleck. Thanks for joining me at Constructive Conversations, Building Canada Stories, where we dig into the foundations of Canada's construction industry, learning from leaders and pioneers in the business.